So I'm about 200 pages further on Towers of Midnight, and Alanna has just been snatched. So I've been thinking, why would they snatch Alanna? I think there's two potential reasons. Number one, to try and get to Rand. So I thought, well, initially my thought was, well, Alanna knows exactly where Rand is all the time. So it'd be really useful for the dark side to be able to just know where Rand was at all times. However, Rand makes this point himself. He says that they've never really had a problem finding him anyway. So that got me thinking, what on earth could they possibly do to Alanna that could cause Rand to be put in danger? And my biggest thought was they could probably kill Alanna. Everyone who's lost a warder or lost somebody they've been bonded to, they take that really, really harshly. Even those who are stoic and extremely strong of mind, like Lan, had a really tough time when he thought Moiraine was gone. So if they decide to kill Alanna at an opportune moment, I imagine that would really mess with Rand. My other thought was maybe Alanna is Black Arja. Now I thought this was probably less likely due to the fact that surely Rand would have some idea if they were bonded. I know he ignores the bond a lot, but surely he'd have some idea that she was a Black Arja. But obviously, Alanna spent a lot of time with Verin. They went to the two rivers together. They collected all of the women who can channel from there. So I thought, maybe there's some kind of link there. Maybe she knows that Verin's been outed, and she knows that Verin knows about Alanna. And when I say Verin's been outed, Verin is awesome. She wasn't outed. She outed herself and outed the work she's been doing and outed all the other Black Arja. So maybe Alanna was in that group of people. Maybe she has something to fear from Verin coming clean. So those are my two thoughts on Alanna. So Rand is back, and Rand looks like he's going to be trying to make amends for everything that he could have done better with beforehand. And the first thing he made amends with was Tam. And I genuinely had tears in my eyes when he embraces Tam and he is open enough to just cry and let all of his emotions out. And it was such a pure moment. I absolutely loved it. And it looks like he's going to be going to Arad Doman to fix those problems there. He knows he has to go and fix the Black Tower and the issues that are happening across in that direction. So I really think Rand's going to be on a big cleanup job for the next book or so before he releases the Dark One from his prison. And it becomes apparent Rand can see dark friends as well. And I think this is going to lead to some potentially heartbreaking scenarios. Maybe there's some people that we really loved who are dark friends, and Rand's going to be able to see that and out them. But also it might lead to some really fun chapters and some fun happenings as well, because it would be really nice to be able to see who was really on your side and who wasn't, even just in, the day-to-day world that we live in as well. So it would be a very useful tool to have. And then he decides to pardon Cadsuane, who I love, and decides to send Cadsuane to go and fetch somebody. Now, I clearly haven't paid enough attention from the story because I couldn't figure out, based on the location, who he had been sent to fetch. So my initial thoughts were maybe he wants Matt, maybe he wants Perrin, but that doesn't really add up. And then I thought, well, is he sending Cadsuane to go and get Avienda? Or Avinda, as I've pronounced her the entire duration. And I thought, no, probably not, because Avinda can travel. She knows what she's doing. She's on a mission that, has to happen for her to become a wise one. She needs to go to Ruidin. So I'm absolutely stumped. I've got no idea who Cadsuane's going to get, but I'm excited to find out. And I was a little frustrated that I didn't even have any ideas about who she was going to get. Normally, I feel like I'm a little bit more observant than this. And it got me thinking. That Sanderson, especially in this book, he doesn't really put two chapters together from the same perspective. And oftentimes, a chapter will be split into three different perspectives. And although that moves the story along quickly, I definitely do miss the intensity in which we focus on one character, when especially Jordan would sometimes have 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters in a row from one character. And were there times when that character wasn't really moving very much and the storyline was slow? For example, Elayne and Camelin, yes, that was very, very frustrating. But it gave you such an intense look at that character and so many opportunities to get to know them so well, and therefore I felt like I knew what they were going to do, or I could predict better what they were going to do. Whereas now I feel a lot more we're getting the bare facts, because we've had so much character development previously. It works still, but yeah, I feel like I'm paying less attention to the small little things that could be clues moving forwards, because the story is moving at such a breakneck pace and we're jumping from character to character to character. So instead of me having a long time to focus on one character and really set my brain into what's this character's headspace at, where are they planning on going, who have they been speaking to, where do their morals lie, what happens is I jump back into a chapter, and obviously the first thing my brain thinks is, okay, where was this story at? Oh yeah, that first paragraph will be reminding me of where the story is at for that character. And then it will be action, 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 big plot point, and then we'll move on to the next one. And I just feel like it definitely makes it harder for me to try and think, okay, what's gonna happen next? Or to pick up the little clues that are there as well. I don't know if anyone else noticed this or had this, I don't want to say issue, I'm still really enjoying it, but yeah, I definitely do miss the fact that we used to get a couple of chapters in a row from each character. That was awesome. And then we also get the Black Aja. They strike in Tel'Aran'Rhiod, and Egwene easily defeats them because she is the ultimate badass when it comes to Tel'Aran'Rhiod, of anyone that we know anyway, outside of maybe Hopper. But it got me thinking how much of this final battle is going to be fought in Tel'Aran'Rhiod, because Tel'Aran'Rhiod is used in almost every single book, and our characters go there a lot, but it's such a strange concept still, but it's like a strange concept that's used all the time, so it makes it feel like it's a normal concept. So I was wondering, like, how much of this final battle, how much of the outcome of this entire series is going to be based on what happens in Tel'Aran'Rhiod. And I feel like, if I was going to go out on a limb, I feel like quite a lot is going to be done from Tel'Aran'Rhiod. I feel like it's too cool of a place, too important of a place, because so much of the Dark One's work is done in there as well, for us to not have an extended period in Tel'Aran'Rhiod with some of our most beloved characters. So we do get quite a lot of Nynaeve in this book. And one thing she does is she learns how to heal madness. Nynaeve is awesome. And I feel like she's been awesome from the start of book 1 up until now. Now, was there a development phase? Yes, there was. I think it was maybe books like 5, 6, and 7 maybe, where she was really struggling. She didn't really have a relationship with Egwene. She struggled with tons of different things and figuring out who she was and how to break her block, etc. as well. But if we look at all of our characters, I think that her personality, she has stayed the truest to herself out of every single character. Although she has developed, she already was such a determined, stoic, and just focused individual on what she believes is right. She's not going to differ from that, and she's going to get it her way. And I just have so much respect for Nynaeve. And we also look at the personification of the madness, and it's like these black barbs on people's brains, and she looks into Rand's brain, and Rand has the black barbs basically covering his whole brain, but he also has the white section, like glowing light that seems to be protecting his brain as well. And I was thinking, if Nynaeve had enough time and enough energy and effort inside of her to really have a good go at lifting the black barbs off of Rand's brain, what is that white section? I really wonder what is that like. If she had managed to remove all of the dark barbs, the black barbs off of his brain, what would Rand be like with just that light on there? It's an interesting question. And do the black barbs just personify madness, or is it like a deeper meaning behind that from the Dark One? Hopefully I get an explanation to that. Then we move back to Perrin, and Perrin, he has a lovely dinner for his 1-year anniversary with Fael. And he basically spills all. He tells Fael everything about what he's been feeling, what has happened, and he doesn't hold back at all. And I think that's quite important for Perrin's development. I think a lot of Perrin's development is learning to accept who he is, and that's step 1, is not being afraid to show people who he is and show what he cares about and how he's been feeling as well. And then another thing that adds to that is he's been going into the wolf dream, which, you know, I can only assume is Tel'Aran'Rhiod, which it must be Tel'Aran'Rhiod, with Hopper, and he's learning how to interact over there. Now, whenever somebody gets an education in Tel'Aran'Rhiod, they always get a finale where Tel'Aran'Rhiod is extremely important. So I would guess that Perrin is going to get a finale in Tel'Aran'Rhiod in this book. But in Tel'Aran'Rhiod, we see this big purple like wall or force field. And I was trying to figure out what that might be. It's clearly something from the Dark One's influence, but I was racking my brains and I really didn't have any ideas as to what that could be, what it could be trying to block him from going to a certain section, unless that part of Tel'Aran'Rhiod is being utilized by the Dark One for something. Or maybe that's a sign of the pattern unraveling, but in Tel'Aran'Rhiod. I would assume if the pattern unraveled, obviously that includes everything. That includes every timeline, every location, including whatever Tel'Aran'Rhiod is. So I'm very excited to learn about what that is, that big like purplish wall it was described as, and how that's going to affect our heroes moving forwards. And just on a side note, Balwer. I was very unsure on Balwer when he first came into the story, but I think every king needs a Balwer. You need a master spy. You need somebody who is just so intelligent and crafty and just wants their work to be useful. And we see Balwer's usefulness in his desire to not be paid more. He's such a professional that he knows that even being paid more, getting more assets to himself, more choices in the form of money, is something that he has seen being the undoing of other people before. So he is simply a spy for the love of the game, and you have to respect that. So we have Perrin, we have Galad, they're about to face off, or so it would seem. I think Perrin is massively underestimating Galad. Now Morgaze, she has to come into this storyline now. She has just found out that Ravin was Gabriel, and actually she was under compulsion. And I think this is going to be the information that allows her to come out and say who she is or who she was. And what that will do is hopefully mean that Galad hears of this and they have a reunification, and then maybe she can broker a deal for peace between those two somehow. But I think it'll be a relief off of Morgaze's shoulders to know that she was under compulsion, even though it's very scary, and also to know that Ravin was of the Forsaken. Because otherwise, I think she probably felt like she didn't know who she was and she lost her mind of her own accord. So I think this is good information for her, even though obviously it's quite shocking to begin with. Then we jump over to Mat and Elayne. And I have to say, I wasn't so impressed with how Elayne handled the whole Caemlyn situation. I feel like she kind of lucked her way into success based around the big advantages she had with traveling, and also just on Bridget's plan of action and getting things done after Elayne was stolen. But since she's become queen, I've been more than impressed with her abilities to plan, prepare, negotiate, and influence. Doing things like, well, she's planning on, maybe thinking of getting the Black Tower under her wrap. She's kind of strapped the kin to her. She's strapping Eludra's dragons to herself, and she's also kind of strapping Mat and the band of the Red Hand together as well. And it just shows such a high level of politicking and a high level of diplomacy to be able to think that far ahead and to strap these people to her with very minimal cost to herself as well. So props to Elayne, you're absolutely crushing it. Oh, and she also strapped the kin to her as well in a super effective way. Having unlimited healing and unlimited traveling. Come on, genius. And then we finally get the interaction between Mat, Tom, and Elayne. And honestly, it was so wholesome. Like the fact that they hugged it out, there was no posturing to begin with. They were just genuinely happy to see each other, was so refreshing. I thought it was going to be a bit of an awkward interaction. And Elayne can bargain with the best of them. Now, she manages to get hold of the necklace for 3 days, the Foxhead Medallion. And I was thinking, as long as the golem doesn't get Mat between now and then, if she can replicate the medallion, then it's going to be much easier to kill the golem. Way simpler to kill the golem, because maybe she can replicate it into an actual weapon, or if there's just enough of them, then, it won't be too hard to get the golem. But also, if she can replicate it and then reverse engineer it and figure out how it works for men, and then mass produce this, then they are going to win the final battle. It's going to be impossible for them not to. We also find out that Mat plans to regain the horn, which is going to be amazing. We're going to see all of the heroes come forth in the final battle as well. And the horn, that was so long ago. That was in the second book that happened. So it seems like that's just been on the back burner and I've completely forgotten about it. So I'd be so excited for him to blow the horn again. We also get a sneak peek. So Olva has been playing snakes and foxes pretty much the entire duration of the time we've known him, with Noel, I think it is. Now, I already have a suspicion that Noel is Jane Fastrider, even though he says he's his cousin or something like that. But I think Olva is going to be the key to defeating the Aelfinn. I say defeating, I don't really know how that's going to go, or whether it's going to be a battle, or if it's a battle of wits, or what needs to happen over in the Tower of Genji. But Olva comes out and says, hey, Matt, I've got some ideas for how we're going to beat these guys. And Matt kind of brushes him off. And I think that that is the foreshadowing for Olva having a great idea, or having the idea of have figured out the way to get Moiraine out, or to do whatever they need to do with the Eowyn and the Eorfin in the Tower of Genji. We also get a very fun scene with Gaiabon, and he's basically asking Matt about all of his rumors about him, and Matt's like confirming or denying them. It was just so fun to get like a summary of all the crazy things that he's achieved and what he's done as well. And I really, like I said in the last video, I think Sanderson really manages to capture Matt much better this time round, much better than he did the previous time. And then finally, we get some perspective of Ituralde. And this seems to be the actual foreshadowing for the final battle. Just the relentlessness and the firepower of the dark side, with the Trollocs, with the Midril, with the Drakkar, I think that's how you pronounce that, with the Trebuchets, which is interesting, something that we hadn't seen before. And we also get to see how the evil, the dark side, the menace on the land, the threat of the final battle and all of humanity ending really unites humanity, because we get those, I think it's Chaldeans, who didn't want Ituralde on their land, opening up their doors and letting him in, even though it wasn't by the sanction of their ruler. It just goes to show that humanity is important and love will always win in the end. So I'm so excited for this final battle, and I feel like those Ituralde sections, like that is the real preamble for the kind of violence that we're going to get. And I'm sure that the dark side has so much more to give than just Trollocs, Midril and Drakkar. Obviously you have the Chosen, obviously you have the Dark One himself. I think there's going to be battles in Tel'Aran'Rhiod. I think there's going to be things that we've completely never heard of before, because Moradin had a whole supply of what are they called? I've forgotten. A whole supply of magical artifacts to use. Angrials, Sangrials, and the other type of one that does something completely different. He's going to use all of those in the final battle as well. So I just feel like it's going to be amazing, and I'm sure it absolutely is. So I normally finish with a question for you. I think for the last book or two, I think it was at the start of the previous book, book 12, I really started to fear getting to the end of the series, because although it's been an amazing journey, it's been a long journey. I've read books in between, but it's been over a year. And what that means is there's going to be quite a big hole in my life when this finishes. So am I going to reread immediately? No, I'm not. I'm definitely going to wait a while before I reread. There's other books to read, other series to read, and I'm excited to be able to move on and read something new. But I just feel like there's going to be a huge Wheel of Time shaped hole in my life, because I've been reading it for such a long time. So my question for you is, when did you really start to fear getting to the end of the series? When did you start to think, oh man, I'm gonna not be reading this anymore? When did that, was it at the end of the final book, or did you start to fear it halfway through? Or are you similar to me at the start of the 12th book, when Sanderson took over, you thought, okay, this is gonna now be a roller coaster to the end? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Outside of that, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be back next Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Have an amazing day.